Hi everyone, today we are going to do our next Cambridge reading analysis in terms of IELTS 8, Test 3, Reading Passage 3. The topic is about how does the biological clock tick. And as long as we are looking at the question types, we have first question is about matching paragraphs. The next one is about sentence completion, right? And the last one is yes, no, not given. All right, let's try to do our best in terms of doing full reading analysis with synonym matching. All right, let's do. uh, all right, if we pay attention here, paragraph A has been done for us, which means we don't have to read paragraph A here. And let's try to read paragraph B. All right, in terms of doing list of headings, first of all, the first step is that we need to we need to pay attention to the paragraph first, and then we will try to pick up the most optimal variant here. All right, our dead products are static closed systems. It's always the basic material which constitutes the object and which in the natural course of thing is worn down and becomes older. Aging in this case must occur according to the laws of physical chemistry and of thermodynamics. Although the same law holds for a living organism, the result of this law is not inexorable in the same way. At least as long as a biological system has the ability to renew itself, it could actually become older without aging. So it could become older without aging. An organism is an open, dynamic system through which new material continuously flows. Destruction of old material and formation of new material are thus in permanent dynamic equilibrium. The material of which the organism is formed changes continuously. Thus, our bodies continuously exchange old substance for new, just like a spring which more or less maintains its form and movement, but in which the water molecules are always different. And what kind of headings do we have here? The biological clock. So, biological clock. Is it talking about biological clock? I don't think so, right? Why dying is beneficial? Aging process of men and women, prolonging your life, limitation of lifespan, modus of development of different species, stable lifespan despite improvements, energy consumption, fundamental difference in aging of objects and organisms, repair of genetic material. So, if you just pay attention here, you can see the 9 could be a answer. Why? So let's try to do our best in terms of figuring out the synonyms. So fundamental difference. So let's just highlight this word and make it bold. Fundamental difference in aging of objects and organisms, right? So let's try to find synonyms of aging, fundamental difference, or organisms or objects. So our dead products are static closed system. It's always the basic material which constitutes the object and which in the natural course of things worn down and becomes older. So you see, worn down and becomes older, it means aging, right? And aging in this case, so we have this word also here, aging, right? aging in this case must occur according to the law of physics and chemistry of thermodynamics, although the same law holds for a living organism, right? So living organism, aging, worn down, and becomes older, right? And the result of this law is not inexorable in the same way, at least as long as the biological system has the ability to renew itself, right? Uh, it could actually become older without aging. An organism is an open dynamic system through which new material continuously flows. Destruction of old material and formation of new material are thus in permanent dynamic equilibrium. The material of which the organism is formed changes continuously. Thus, our bodies continuously exchange old substance for new, just like a spring which more or less maintains its forms and movements, but in which the water molecules are always different, right? And if you pay attention here, it's talking about something that water molecules can be different. So it's talking about fundamental difference about aging, because our body continuously exchange from old substance to the new one, but water molecules are always different, and this is a fundamental difference you can see here, and the answer is going to be the 9. And let's just write it down, 27 here, right? So the next one. So thus aging and death should not be seen as inevitable, right? So aging and death should not be seen as inevitable, particularly as the organism possesses many mechanisms for repair. It's not the principle necessary for a biological system to age and die. So it's talking about not dying of a person, but it's talking about dying of a biological system, right? And nevertheless, a restrictive lifespan, aging, and then death, right, are basic characteristics of life. The reason for this is easy to recognize. In nature, the existing organisms either adapt or regularly replaced by new types. It's talking about dying, right? Because existing organism are regularly replacing by new ones, which means we die, the younger generation will come to life eventually, right? And it's kind of life cycle, because of change in the genetic material, mutations. These have new characteristics, and in the course of their individual lives, they are tested for optimal and better adaptation to the environmental conditions. Immortality would disturb the system. Yeah, this is the key. This is the key point, because it's talking about a better adaptation to the environmental condition, which means it's beneficial, right? Sorry, it's beneficial, and we have a synonym to the word die. Here we have die, and then we have death here, and we have replacing, right? Replacing can be a synonym to the word dying, because a living organism is replaced by a new type of organism, which means dying. Okay, it's going to be the synonym. And if you look at this statement, immortality, which means not dying, right, would disturb the system, which means would cause the problem to the system. It needs room for a new and better life, the basic problem of evolution, right? And that's why it's going to be 28. And paragraph C will be number 2. And the next one. Every organism has a lifespan, which is highly characteristics. Every organism has a lifespan, right? And there are striking difference in lifespan between different species, but within one species the parameter is relatively constant. For example, the average duration of human life has hardly changed in thousands of years. Changed, right? So although more and more people attain and advance at ages as a result of developments in medical care and better nutrition, characteristics upper limit for most remains 80 years. A further argument against the simple wear and tear theory, the observation that the time within which organisms age lies between a few days, even a few hours for unicellular organisms, several thousand years as a mammoth trees, right? All right. Is it about limitation of lifespan, or is it about a stable lifespan despite improvements? So, is it about limit or improvements, right? I can see we have a development in medical care and better nutrition, right? Which means a perfect synonym to the word improvements, development in medical care and better nutrition. So let's highlight this word and make it bold so as to be a synonym to the word different improvements, right? And stable lifespan. Do we have the word stable lifespan here? Okay, so we have even the connective words despite, which means it's going to be exactly 7, not 5, but let's see, as long as we don't find a synonym to the word stable lifespan. So let's try to do my shot in terms of looking for a keyword for a stable lifespan, okay? So, for example, an average duration of human life has hardly changed. Average duration of human life. This is kind of stable lifespan, right? So it's stable because hardly changed. It has hardly changed. That's why it's talking about stabilism, right? So let's just make it green highlight, and this is the reason why it's going to be number 7, 20, 29, right? 29. Let's write it down here. 29, 29 here. Okay. The next one. If a lifespan is a genetically determined biological characteristic, genetically determined biological characteristic, right? It's logically necessary to propose the existence of an internal clock, which in some ways measures and controls aging process. So internal clock is measuring our aging process, and which finally determines death. So it can determine the death. What? Internal clock. So it's talking about internal clock. And the last step in a fixed program. Like the last lifespan, the metabolic rate has 4 different organisms fixed mathematical relationship to the body mass. In comparison to the lifespan, this relationship is inverted. So the larger the organism, the lower its metabolic rate. Again, this relationship is valid not only for birds but also similarly on average within the systematic unit for all organisms, plants, animals, unicellular organisms. Okay, so it's 30. So it's not talking about limitations. Still, this heading can be a tricky one. So it's not talking about limitation, but it's talking about biological clock, right? Okay, so it's talking about biological clock. Why? Because we have an internal clock here, right? And this clock can they measure and control our aging system, our aging process, and this can somehow measure and control because relationship is inverted, which means the larger the organism, the lower its metabolic rate, which means if you are big, so you will have a big chance to live longer. Like birds, they are small, which means they have a small lifespan. Why? Because they have internal clock, existence of biological characteristic, right? So it's talking about internal clock, it's talking about characteristics inside ourselves, right? So let's write it down, one here for question 30, and let's write 30 here. So animals which behave frugally with energy become particularly old. For example, crocodiles and tortoises, parrots and birds of prey are often health changed up. Thus, they are not able to experience life, so that they attain a high lifespan in captivity. Animals which save energy by hibernation and lethargy, bats or hedgehogs, live much longer than those which are always active. Metabolic rate of mice can be reduced by very low consumption of food, which means hunger diet. They then may live twice as long as their well-fed comrades. Women become distinctly about 10% older than men. If you examine the metabolic rates of the two sexes, you establish that the higher male metabolic rate roughly counts for the lower male lifespan, which means that they live life energetically more intensively, but not for as long. Okay, so is it talking about, all right, so it's not about biological clock. Okay, it's not about this one, it's not about this one, and this one as well. Aging process, prolonging your life, limitation, modes of development of different spaces, energy consumption. Yes, it's talking about energy consumption. Of course it is. Why? So let me help you to figure out. So and so animal which save energy or hibernation or lethargy, bats and hedgehogs, they live longer, which means they consume less energy, right? Because they are saving energy and consumption of food. So as long as you consume food, so you are somehow producing energy, right? Just so it's, if you just pay attention here, it's talking about energy consumption. Like males live life energetically because they are somehow consuming their energy more compared to the women. That's why men tend to live kind of lower compared to the women here, right? So this is the reason why it's going to be 31, or you could write here 31, or you could write here 31 as well. Okay, the next one. It follows from the above that sparing uses of energy reserves should tend to extend life. Extreme high performance sports may lead to optimal cardiovascular performance, but they quite certainly do not prolong life. Okay, relaxation lowers metabolic rate, as does adequate sleep in general, and equable and balanced personality. Each of us can develop his or her own energy saving program with a little self observation, critical self control, and above all, logical consistency. Experience will show that to live in this way not only increase lifespan but also is very healthy. This final aspect should not be forgotten. So, is it talking about aging process? So, I don't think so. It's not talking about aging process of man or women. We have no information here, right? And prolonging your life when limitations. Still, now no limitations. So if you just pay attention here, this is kind of extra. This is kind of extra heading here, right? And let's just cross it out. Repair of genetic material. Repairing? Is it repairing something? Fixing? Right? Constructing? No. Genetic material. So it's not going to be number 10 as well. Sorry. So this is extra. And modus of development of different species. Modus of development or prolonging your life. So prolonging can be a perfect synonym. Like, let me explain why. Because increased lifespan, right? Increased lifespan means prolonging your life, right? And very healthy. Healthy means, of course, prolonging your life in some ways, right? Because if you just pay attention here, high performance sports like extreme sports, they do not prolong life. And if as long as you have a adequate sleep or balanced personality, and each of us can develop our energy saving program which can help us to live longer, right? So this paragraph is talking about prolonging our lifespan, which means it's going to be I'm sorry, 31. So what was 31? Life. So let me focus on. So it's talking about energy consumption, right? So 31 will be number 8, and the last paragraph is going to be number 4 according to the list of headings we are given here, and this one. So if you just pay attention here, we have 4 extra headings that don't have to be used as correct answers. And to be honest, it wasn't as difficult as we expected, because it's going to be a lot more maybe complex, or let's say challenging, as it's reading passage 3. But however, as long as you try to look for a certain keywords in terms of synonyms or paraphrasings or some kind of maybe word expressions, or if you just pay attention to the grammar, right? The grammar and vocabulary can help you to figure out the right answer in a right time, right? All right, let's move on to the next types of question here. And if you just pay attention, we have word choice like sentence completion, no more than 2 words. This is really essential for us to know how many words we can use. Objects age in accordance with principles of something and something. Okay, objects age in accordance of principles of something and something. So it's talking about two principles, right? And through mutations, organisms can something better to the environment. So just if you pay attention, question number 33 and 34, just you can realize we are looking for two nouns here, right? However, 35 requires a verb, solid verb here, right? And the next one is about it's subject. It's going to be a subject. However, we will see, is it about the noun or anything. So would pose a serious problem for the theory of evolution, right? So let's just look for the right answer. So let's look for the word object age. Object age, where was that object age? So I think it's like this, because as long as you remember, it, the paragraph B was about number number 9, right? Fundamental difference, like objects and organisms, right? So that's why the first thing just comes to my mind is paragraph B here, right? So objects age in according to some law, some principles, some law. See, as long as you have a perfect vocabulary, you can figure out any you can figure out any synonyms in the question, which means, so principle, this is the synonym of law. And we have law, we have principles, and physical chemistry and thermodynamics, right? So this is the reason why I am just putting thermodynamics here. Sorry, my bad. So 33 is going to be physical chemistry. So this is the right answer as 33. And the next one is thermodynamics, right? Okay. All right, this is 33 and 34 respectively. Okay. And we have the word object here as well. However, just if you think about the word object has been given in different statement, you just pay attention to pronouns. So in this case, grammar can help us to be like a lifesaver here, right? So let's think what I'm talking about, because if you just pay attention here, aging in this case, what is this? This is referring to the word object in previous sentence, right? And pronoun this is referring to the word, and this is showing an object which is given in the previous statement. So that's why object and this is the same word here, right? Okay, the next one, through mutations organisms can can better to the environment through, right? All right, let's just figure out. So although the same law holds for a living organism, the result of this law is not inexorable in the same way, at least as long as biological system has the ability to renew itself. it could actually become older without aging. Organism is an open dynamic system through which new material continuously flow. Destruction of an old material, formation of new material are thus in permanent dynamic equilibrium. The material of which the organism is formed changes continuously. Thus, our body continuously exchange old substance for new, just like a spring, which more and less maintains its form and movement, but in which the water molecules are different. Thus, aging and death should not be seen as inevitable, particularly this, as the organisms possess many mechanisms and repair. It's not, in principle, necessary for a biological system and die. Nevertheless, mutation. Do we have? Yes, we have mutation here. So, because of changes in the genetic material, mutations, these have characteristics, and in the course of their individual lives they are tested for optimal or a better adaptation to the environmental conditions. So we have the word environmental condition here. Okay, we have mutation, genetic material, right? So better, better, we have better, and can because of the changes in the genetic material, these have new characteristics, and in the course of their individual lives they are tested for optimal or better adaptation to the environmental conditions. Immortality would disturb this system. It needs room for new and better life. This is the basic problem of evolution. So let's just read again. So nevertheless, the restricted lifespan, aging, and then death are basic. So first of all, I'm looking for a verb, and if you just pay attention here, there is no verb that can be as suitable here, and that's why I'm trying to pay attention to the previous sentences, right? And nevertheless, the restricted lifespan, aging, and then death are basic characteristics of life. The reason for this is easy to recognize. In nature, the existent organism either adapt or are regularly replaced by new types. Because of changes in the genetic material, these new have characteristics, and in the course of their individual life, they are tested for optimal and better adaptation to the environmental conditions. Okay, and if you just pay attention here, we have two verbs, adapt and replace it, right? All right, let's try to figure out which can be a right answer. Okay, in nature, we have the word in nature, and this also can be a perfect synonym instead of environmental condition, right? Because existent organisms, this can be a synonym to organism, right? Existent organism can, so it can adapt or it can replace it. According to IELTS reading criteria, we have to pick the we have to pick the verb as it's given in the text, right? And if we just copy replace it here, so there can be a grammar problem because the modal verb can just requires coming with like verb one, like infinitive without to, right? Bare infinitive, and replace it. This is like verb two, past simple of the verb, right? And just it's totally impossible to write are regularly replace it because it's talking about no more than two words, and that's why we can choose the verb adapt here. Why? Because it's just bare infinitive. You can copy here, and perfect grammar it can match here, right? So that's why I can write adapt. So 35. And this kind of sentence completion reading questions just test our not only vocabulary but also our grammar range, because just as long as you are in a dilemma which one can be a perfect, like perfect alternatives or a optimal alternative, so replace it cannot be, as grammar cannot be here. It's there is no grammar here. That's why I'm choosing adapt here. Okay. And the next one, something which pose a serious problem for the theory of evolution. And what is a serious problem? Maybe it's talking about immortality. Okay. Why? Because basic problem of evolution, we have the word basic problem here, and basic problem can be as perfect synonym to serious problem. And evolution, we have evolution here. And pose, so pose means disturb the system, so it's disturbing the system, right? Disturbing. Okay. Like causing problem, posing problem, which means causing problem. And that's why the word immortality can be a perfect and the one answer here without question. So the next one. Okay. And another reason why I like reading in terms of IELTS, not in other types of English, like English testing systems. Why I like English reading? Because the sequence of the answers are the same all the time in most cases, right? Because this is 35, this is 36, and this is 33, 34, you see. And so they are trying to keep the sequence, and this is kind of somehow convenience for IELTS candidates, I think. All right, the next one. It's talking about yes, no, not given. So the wear and tear theory applies to both artificial objects and biological systems. And in principle, it's possible for a biological system to become older without aging. It's possible. And within 7 years, about 90% of human bodies replace it as new. Conserving energy may help to extend humans' life. So conserving energy may help to extend humans' life. So let's try to do our best in terms of figuring out the word wear and tear. And this is kind of keyword that you can figure out here. Where was this word? I think it was here. Just wear and tear. So obtain, malnutrition. So I'm just trying to look for the word wear and tear so as to locate the sentence, the statement, and given in the text. That's why I'm looking for the word wear and tear theory. Oh my god, where was it? Where was it? Wear and tear, where are you? So I think I have a problem with kind of oh my god, wear and tear, where are you? Wear and tear, natural wear and tear. So it's this really. Let's see. So our lifespan is restricted. Everyone accept this as biologically obvious. Nothing lives forever. However, in this statement, we think of artificially produced technical objects, products which are subjected to natural wear and tear during use. This leads to the result that at some time or other objects stop working and is unusable, which means death in the biological sense, but are the wear and tear and loss of function of technical objects and death of living organisms really similar to comparable. Okay, and where wear and tear theory applies to both artificial objects and biological. So let's see, is it about artificial or is it about biological? Okay, so whereabouts. So however, this statement we think of artificially produced technical objects, products which are subjected to natural wear and tear during use. This lead to the result that at some time and other objects stop working and death in the biological sense are the wear, tear, or loss of function, technical substance, death. Our dead products are static, closed systems. It's always basic material which continues the object and which in the natural course of things worn down and becomes older. Aging in this object case must occur according to the laws of physical chemistry and thermodynamics, although the same law holds for a living organism. The result of this law is not inexorable in the same way. At least as long as a biological system has the ability to renew itself, it could actually become older without aging. An organism is an open dynamic system through which new material continuously flows. Destruction of old material and formation of new material are thus in permanent dynamic equilibrium. The material in which the organism is formed changes continuously. And I think it's going to be no. Why? So let me explain. So according to this text, although the same law holds for a living organism, the result of this law is not inexorable the same way. At least as long as a biological system has the ability to renew itself, it could actually become older without aging. So, which means although is a connective word that is contradicting the two ideas. And according to here, we've been given two different ideas: artificial objects and biological systems. And wear and tear theory applies in different ways, because according to the text here, biological system has the ability to renew itself, which means we are aging but our biological system is kind of renewing itself. However, it's not in kind of object system, because according to here, organism is an open dynamic system. And according to here, dead products are static. It's not dynamic, it's static, which means permanent. And it's closed system, which means it's totally different. So that's why it's going to be 37, no. So 37 here, so 37 here as well. Why? Because you can somehow take into account these statements given here. So in principle, it's possible for a biological system to become older without aging. Without aging, of course, because it could actually become older without aging. Kind of given like word by word, right? So it's like word by word. That's why it's going to be yes. 38 here. And within 7 years, about 90% of the human body is replaced as new. 90%? So do we have numbers here? I don't think so. The destruction of multi information, new material is thus permanent, dynamic, equivalent material information continuously, otherwise can change. New, just like so. This statement could be, but it's not talking about the same, or it's not contradicting somehow the information, but no information, exactly no, because it's not talking about 7 years, it's not talking about 90%. So that's why we don't have numbers here, and of course it's no information, no, not given. Okay. Conserving energy may help to extend humans life. Of course it is. So let me explain here. Saving energy, where was saving energy? I just forgot. Saving energy. So animals which save energy by hibernation and lethargy, right? Conserving energy, extend humans life. So like metabolic rate is kind of like a biological process in our bodies, like renewing our uh, cells, kind of, right? So if you just pay attention here, metabolic rate of mice can be reduced by a very low consumption of food. They then may live twice as long as they are well fed comrades. Women become distinctly about 10% older than men. So just if you pay attention here, it's talking about animals, and in the same time, it's also talking about people, right? For example, women become distinctly older than men, about 10%. If you examine the metabolic rates of the two sexes, you establish that the higher male metabolic rate roughly counts for the lower male lifespan, which means it can extend humans' life, right? And this means that they live life energetically, more intensively, but not for long as well, right? And that's why it's going to be yes. The last question is going to be yes, and let's try to write it down. 40 here. Okay. However, just you may think that it can be no, but actually not. In fact, here it's talking about, it's exemplifying animals, right? Birds, mice, and at the same time it's talking about women, it's talking about men. Women and men are considered human, and that's why it's yes, it's totally 100% yes. So this is all for today, and my suggestion is that all the time try to work with analysis, try to follow the analysis, and try to get the idea what is going to do, what's happening here. And of course, if you are a non-English speakers, try to translate word by word, try to give your focus, or if you have a focus problem or a concentration problem, you may need to just do your best, like reading 2 times, maybe 3 times, but you have to be quick, because in the real exam you'll have a time management problem. That's why try to do your best in terms of like doing your test, like how to say, uh, you can do better than you think, as long as you translate the context. So my strategy and my advice for you, you need to work on your vocabulary, and of course your grammar. Why? Because vocabulary and grammar can help you to translate the sentences correctly, and of course, as long as you have a full comprehension of the context, you may reach a, perfect conclusion in terms of any question. And that's why don't don't be tricked by some kind of reading strategies. No reading strategies can work as long as you have low vocabulary, as long as you have low grammar. That's why work on your grammar and work on your vocabulary if you want to somehow solve maybe 35 to 40 questions in the test. So this is all for today. Thank you for your attention.